And
That's
we are
important.
live. And we are live as Carmen drops a present on the floor. Good morning, everyone. If you don't know, this is a very casual online experience, as Carmen just demonstrated. Um, I mean, why not? It's Saturday morning. You all are probably off of work. Why not be casual with us this morning? My name is Jason Weeks. I am a staff member at Unity on the Bay, and I have my hostess with the mostest over here, Carmen Navedo. Carmen, who are you? Tell us who you are.
I am that I am. I am not sure who I am. Hello, Miss Erica. Good morning. Let me see.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to define myself. I don't want to look for labels. And
Mhm.
I'm just happy to be here today. I am the prayer chaplain chairperson at Unity on the Bay, among many other things. And so it is my purpose to continue to grow and expand. And I'm grateful to be here with all of you in this path that we call life, that sometimes makes us laugh and sometimes makes us cry and sometimes makes us scream. Or
Mhm.
sometimes we choose to laugh, scream, and yell. I'll change that to choice. And
Yeah.
so, and move away from our victim mentality, from my victim mentality. This was part of the pre conversation with Jason today. You're in for
Yeah.
a treat today.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. This is for anybody joining us, and good morning. I see a bunch of people joining us this morning. Good morning, Charmaine, Yesbel. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. Yezebel. This
Isabel.
is Isabel. Sorry. Um, that will be the first of many mistakes I make, so please forgive me. Um, so this is Tea Time. This is a Unity on the Bay online program. Usually in the past, I've done it solo, but we've decided to join forces, Carmen and I, and bring you Tea Time. And so what it is we just pick a subject matter that has to do with spirituality, the human experience, and we talk about it, but it's interactive. So if you want to make a comment, if you want to say amen, praise, I don't believe in that, whatever, we welcome all your comments, questions. If you have a question, we will answer it. It might not be the right answer, but hey, we'll give you an answer that sounds great. Um,
Or not.
yeah, or not. Nod your head. So yeah. So today's hello, Carmen and Jason. So nice seeing you both. Yes, Christina, nice seeing you too. Um, so also
Hi, Barbara.
share
Hi, Sherry.
share this live stream as we're bringing it to you because we want to get people involved and perhaps they're going to hear something that helps them in life. Share. So we're going to jump in. Today's theme is the hero's journey, specifically becoming your own hero because that's possible in your life, right? Because you are the main character in your life, right, Carmen?
Yes.
Carson, yeah. Why are you the main character? Because you're seeing everything that happens in your life, right? Because you're always, anything that's happening in your life, you're present for, hopefully. Um, so we're going to be talking about the hero's journey. It is a, a do you want to call it a theology, Carmen, that was brought about by Joseph Campbell?
I don't know if theology is the word. He studied myth, and so he looked for the commonalities among all the myth. And I was first introduced to Joseph Campbell, to Joe, when I was in college. And so first I fell in love with him, and then I fell out of love with him. Um, I fell in love with him because it was an expanding, it was a mind expanding evolution for me. I don't even know what to call it. He he said how we take myth, like our stories, the stories that we believe about our religion, about our church, about whatever we believe our stories to be the truth, and then everybody else's stories to be a myth. So
Mm.
he brought that question, and so he made me question, or he gave me the option to question my own story, my own myth. And so to me, that was eye opening. And I had been brought up with as a Catholic in Catholicism, and so the virgin birth. When I found out that in Hinduism there was a virgin birth, also that to me was like mind blowing. And so it was the beginning for me of a search into all the commonalities, into how all major religions have more things in common than differences. And we have gone to
Mhm.
war and killed each other over and over again over centuries, focused on the differences. And so I think that's such a big um, example of what we're even living today, and how what can we do today to focus on the things that we have in common, and how can we support each other and enrich each other. Let those differences be an enrichment instead of a detriment to our lives and to our worlds.
Yeah. Yeah, as you were talking, I was thinking, we all have our own hero's journey, but it's like collectively as let's just call us a species, the human race has almost its own hero's journey, right? And then that can even be broken down into countries, like the cycle that countries have gone through in the hero's journey. Good morning, Reverend Juan. Good to have you here. And that's a great reminder for me that Reverend Juan is actually going to be speaking about the hero's journey this Sunday. Typically, when we talk about the hero's journey, it's almost like specific to men. So he is going to talk about it from Mary's perspective in the Christmas story. So join us this Sunday. His talk is titled "There's Something About Mary." Um, the
Love it.
the sequel, because that was a very popular movie back in the '90s, I think. So come join us on Sunday. Reverend Juan will be talking about "There's Something About Mary" and her personal hero's journey. So let's define the hero's journey um, for anybody who's not familiar with it. All right. So I actually found a definition of it online, which I thought was concise and perfect to share. So the hero's journey is a common story template that involves a hero who goes on an adventure, learns a lesson, wins a victory with that newfound knowledge, and then returns home transformed. Does that sound like a good definition to you, Carmen?
Yes.
Okay. So when in that definition, when they say the hero returns home, that's not only physically, it's almost like spiritually and mentally. Like you return home to who you were or who you always have been, but now you're changed with a different perspective. Um, so we've seen this in a lot of big films. Star Wars is the biggest one. George Lucas actually took Joseph Campbell's story about the hero's journey and he made it into a film, Star Wars. Um, Eat, Pray, Love was a hero's journey, right? Elizabeth Gilbert um, divorced her husband and went on a journey around the world to find herself. Who name drop who has come to Unity on the Bay, and she's just
Yes,
a
yes.
wonderful person. Yes, and another person that comes to mind. I don't know if you saw this movie, Carmen, Into the Wild.
I
It was the
haven't seen it
story.
yet. No, I've been meaning to
Yeah,
watch it, but I haven't.
it was the story about. It's a real story about Christopher McCandless, who graduated from an Ivy League school. Um, from a well-to-do family and decided to ditch everything in his life to live deliberately. So that means he like drove across the country to Alaska to live off the land Ultimately, he ended up dying in the wilderness. Um, but did he learn something that made him a better person? Perhaps. Um, Death doesn't mean that the hero's journey didn't complete itself. Carmen, do you know of any other
Well,
movies, maybe?
they mentioned in the movie that they made about about Joseph Campbell finding Joe. They talked
Hmm.
about the Wizard of Oz, Dorothy being a hero, and to
Yes.
me that was just like, yes, like a female heroine. Uh, everything that she goes through, the finding of friends, the finding of foes, the all the struggles, all the so yeah, I love that. And Erica says we lose our
That's
authentic self by trying to be what they want us to be and eventually find our way back. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
And what's his name? Campbell with who is it? Bill Moore, is it, that interviews him in the PBS series? And they're on YouTube too, so you can watch them in YouTube. But they talk about the story of Nietzsche that says that we are first, the three stages: the camel, the lion, and the child, and that we're first the camel, that we get on our knees, we bow down, we take all the weight in our back, which is like all the stories, how we're supposed to behave, all the rules and all that stuff. And then we struggle to get up, finally get up and run into the desert. And so in the desert, we transform into the lion. And then the lion's job is to go seeking for the dragon. And the dragon on the scale says, thou shalt not. And so the lion slays the dragon and then turns into the child. And then he talks about the child is not childish. The child is just like who you are, your essence. In truth, it has taken in all the rules, but now the rules are not, he's not serving the rules anymore. Now the rules are there to serve him, which kind of reminds me a little bit of Jesus' radicalism of, the Sabbath. Man was not made for the Sabbath, but the Sabbath was made for man. So this whole
Mhm.
idea of how we take in all of the world and then we find out who we are and then we move from that center.
Yeah.
Um,
I
and just
love I I love that. Yeah.
just the challenge of going through all those steps, right? Like it's easier said than done. Like that struggle of getting off the ground to begin with all the baggage in our back without sometimes even
Yeah.
realizing that we're carrying all of this in our back. And who does this
Yeah.
belong to? Like, is it even ours? Is it our family? Is it our culture? Is it serving us?
Yeah.
Is it okay for us to let it go? Is it serving us?
And we're not, yeah, you make a good point. Oftentimes when we're in that, we don't realize we're in it. I mean, like we're in this like suffering, but we don't realize we're there because the moment we can realize we're there, it almost changes it. Um, yeah, so I want one thing I wanted to say about the hero's journey, which really struck me in the process, is you're going from the world of the known to the world of the unknown. And said another way, you're moving outside of your comfort zone when you go on this journey. And so I'm wondering for anybody who's watching today, what maybe you're in that unknown right now. Is there somebody out there that has stepped outside their comfort zone into the unknown, and what has shown up for you? Have you been surprised by some of the things that are showing up for you? Pay attention to how you're feeling. Is it a sense of excitement? Is it a sense of fear? Like, I'm just curious what our viewers are going through. Um, and as we wait for a response, the other thing I want to say about the hero's journey is, and I'm wondering if you agree with me, Carmen. Uh, it's said that when I'm using this circular motion because I think that the hero's journey is a circle back to self, but a lot of people say when you get halfway through the hero's journey, it's like that's when you hit rock bottom. It's like you're really in the unknown. You're wandering in the wilderness, as the Bible says, Um, do you believe that to be true, Carmen?
The dark soul of the night. That is the dark soul of the night, and
The dark night of the
the
soul.
dark night of the soul. I'm missing. I'm translating it from Spanish out of order.
Listen, I've had a few dark souls of the night, so I
Makes me think
gotcha.
of Batman. That's a different hero.
Mm,
But to me, and it's all the different processes that we go through life, right? Like we may undertake that journey, I believe, more than once. We just don't do the hero's journey just one time, and we may not just face the dark night of the soul
yeah.
just one time. And I remember when I had to move from Puerto Rico to Miami, that was the beginning of my dark night of the soul. And the rug was pulled from under my feet, and everything I knew I lost. And I um, couldn't ground myself. I couldn't grow my roots because we kept going back and forth. And
Hmm.
so to me, it was unsettling, and it made me question my faith. And I was
Mm,
only 15, but I was
yeah.
reading Carlo Carretto, which is a mystic, because a nun that we knew had given the book to my dad, and somehow it ended up in my hands and with me here in Miami. I still have that book. And so he gave me permission to question God. And so I remember asking God, this is how you love me? Like, my life is upside down, and this is how you love me? And I know people have gone through trauma that does not compare to
Mm,
what I went through. So it's not a matter of grading ourselves with against other people, right? So it's
mm,
just because your own nightmare or vision of hell is better than mine or worse than mine. It's like this is not a competition, and so each one of our hero's journey is unique. And so this is
hmm.
just another way of saying it. And that process, I would say, for me, it lasted like about 10 years to for me to reach like a new stage and to grow my faith from the faith of a child to the faith of an adult, to have a relationship with God. And I think in a way that's why Joseph Campbell was so pivotal, because I was taking a class called I opted to take a class that was religious analysis instead of
Hmm.
philosophical analysis. So I got this opportunity to take all these religious classes, and so that was fuel for my soul. That was life changing for me
Mm,
to be able to sit there and question what needed to be questioned, and to choose for myself, and to say there has to be more. I remember I kept asking, like, life, there has to be more than this to life. There has to be more than this to life. And
yeah.
so lo and behold, it's taken all this long time, and still we're always learning and growing, and there are different paths and changes. And another hero's journey I undertook, I would say, was at work, just going through uh, moving myself out of victim mentality. And that was challenging as can be. And one of the things I was doing was Ho'oponopono. And
Hmm.
this process, I mix Ho'oponopono with radical forgiveness. If you can imagine that, I'll make a class of that one of these days. I've been dreaming about this. I've been dreaming about it since back in Cameron House. Okay, so one day this class is gonna come through, and so in the process I will experience, like, so I will do 7 days. What's the process? I mix both of them, and so
Uh-huh.
by day 4 or 5, there was a lot of resistance at the beginning. And by day 4 or 5, there was like a truth that would flower and come through. And the moment that I realized that, yes, this person had been making my life hell, but there was a choice that I could have made, it then all of a sudden I had these two choices. Like I could continue to be the victim, or I could be my own heroine kind of thing and say take responsibility for what I didn't do and
Mhm.
what I can choose to do from now on. And it was insane because my mind wanted to say like, but no, I want to continue to blame this other person. And
Mhm.
so in our hero's journey, we have that choice. Do we continue forward into the unknown? Do we continue taking responsibility for what we do and making mistakes? Right? Like trying to put the gift up on top of the TV and letting it fall in front of all of you if you were connected at that time. Um, or more serious mistakes, right? And so
Mhm.
it's scary to take that responsibility upon ourselves because if I'm not a victim, if I'm the one making the calls, if I'm the heroine in my life, then I have to take responsibility for the mistakes, for the things I choose to do, and for the things that I choose to not do. So even avoidance
Mhm.
is a choice. That's a choice. So just taking responsibility versus just turning around and saying, no, it's all their fault. You know, they're making my life impossible. I cannot, you know, poor me, poor me, poor me, poor me. And then just stay in that I call it getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. And
Mhm.
so it's just so I would like to know from our audience, like when have they faced that, when have they faced those choices, have they faced those choices, what decisions they have made, uh, whether they call them dark night of the souls or dark souls of the night, or 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 heroes or heroines journeys.
Yeah, so if you're watching, if you're checking in right now, like let us know in the comments. Like what choices did you make as you were journeying through this? Um, everybody's journey is different, as you're saying, Carmen. Um, you know, Today, if I was to win $5 million, I'd be elated. Believe it or not, there's people out there, if they won $5 million, they might not be happy about it. Like everybody's journey is different. Like some people are frightened of money. So let us know what were some of maybe the practical things that you did through your hero's journey that helped you get through it. I love, Carmen, that you brought up faith. Um, that has helped me through many of my hero's journeys. I feel like I've gone through a few. But I'll say that sometimes my vision through faith, I couldn't see really far into the future. All I could see was tomorrow. Like, what can I do today to get to tomorrow? And it was those little steps that got me through. But I think there's a saying: if you're going through hell, keep going. Like, don't just don't just put a chair down and say, I'm in hell and I'm going to stay here. You got to keep walking because eventually hell's going to end and you're going to come through to the other side a changed person. Um, wow, we got a quiet group. Erica, getting comfortable with uncomfortability. Yes, that's what Carmen said. I love that. If you notice, do we have any like people pleasers out there? Any people pleasers? Give a amen, hello. Um, People pleasers, that's a big one. When you can't be comfortable with other people's discomfort, then what happens? You end up being a people pleaser. Because what it is you're trying to take away that feeling of being uncomfortable when they're uncomfortable. So you got to get comfortable with that. Um, what else can we say about the hero's journey? Um, I want to say, Leslie, last July, I chose to hold my ex husband to account for his decisions. I stood up for myself, and it was hell. Yes, nobody's saying the hero's journey is easy,
But didn't it
but
feel good? Didn't some of it, like, right? Like some of it felt good. Like even if it was going through hell, deep inside somewhere was saying like you had to do this.
yeah, and I'm willing to bet, Leslie, that you came out of that situation a changed person because you learned how to love yourself, how to speak up for yourself, how to set boundaries. But that all came through a very uncomfortable situation. Erica says, for me, it was finding myself in the crossroads of continuing in my spiritual path or going back to not believing in anything, having no faith. Thankfully, everything that I had learned so far in Unity helped me to quiet my soul and make the decision to continue in my spiritual path. It was so vivid. Never will forget that moment. Beautiful. Yeah, we do. Like, how many times during the day do we come to crossroads? I know in my spiritual journey, there's been times when I've questioned this, like, really? Like, seriously? Like, this isn't working? Like, this is just a bunch of hogwash. Um, and, it's turned out to really help me in my life.
Yes. The blessing, and that's one of the things that I often, and I think that's like a recent addition, and I don't remember where I got it from. It may have been Reverend Chris or Reverend Juan, but the whole idea in one of their Sunday talks, the whole idea of demanding, or maybe one of our guest speakers, demanding to find the blessing in the challenge, demanding to see the blessing in the challenge. And recently I have been adding that consistently into my prayers, that as we are being challenged by going through hell in life, there has to be a gift in this challenge. Where is the gift? Show me the gift. Like, lift the veils, like take our focus away from, like, our brain, talking science, right? Like, our brain, there are so many things, so much input going on, that our brain sifts through what we pick up. And so what it does, because the brain works with efficiency, is it will choose similar choices to what we have already chosen. So for us to see the blessing in a challenge that we are currently seeing and have labeled as a challenge or a problem, we have to change our focus. We have to change the sift. We have to change the pattern. So by calling ourselves to it, calling, like, I want to see the gift, show me the gift. There is a gift here somewhere. Show me the gift, show me the blessing. I remember when I was in my car accident a few years ago, the neighbors that came out, because it was in a neighborhood area, they came out with so much caring. They came out, they brought us water and soda, and are you okay? And do you need anything? And there was so much love from total strangers in this moment of chaos and craziness, that it was just beautiful, healing. It was healing.
Mm-hmm.
And so that exists in every moment of our lives. And so if we're not seeing it, we have to take off the veils. We have to perhaps put on the glasses to be able to see clearer, or to be able to focus on something different.
I love that, because I'm looking at the diagram that I have of the hero's journey, which I'll post on our social media later. But when you cross that threshold from the known to the unknown, it specifically says here, I'm looking at it, that you run into helpers along the way. But what is also interesting, and you may have experienced this, Carmen, when you go into the unknown, what happens is you come into a state of vulnerability. And it's in that place, I believe, that people want to help you. They see that you've put down the walls, you've put down the shields, and they come and say, how can I help? And we have that in us, because let's tie in the unity principles, right? Because after all, this is a unity program. What's the first principle? There's one power, there's one presence, and it's God, and it's good. Now, another principle is that good, that spark of divinity, lives in us. And so we innately want to help each other, right? Because it's the God, the good in us, that's saying, let me help myself. Let me help this other aspect of me, Carmen. And it's beautiful. So remember this, as you're going through the hero's journey, people are going to show up, mentors, helpers. Allow those people to help you. Maybe it's your church community, maybe it's your spiritual community. This is why it's important to, and I'm not marketing unity to anybody, but it's important to be part of a community, because we can support each other, right? Especially when we're going through these things. Erica, unity principles, yep. And Janice, welcome, Janice. I haven't seen you earlier in this chat. Oh yeah, here it is. Yes, selective memory. Janice, and healing from depression. Depression can be its own hero's journey, or you may fall into depression through the journey.
Yeah, for sure. When I was going through that period of 15 through 25 of redefining my faith and refinding my ground, right? Because that's what we try to do. We lose our ground when we're on the unknown, and then we're desperately seeking ground. And so I
Ah,
yeah, and so I went through moments of depression, and I think in our society nowadays, that is being seen as, oh my God, there is something wrong with you, but that's just part of nature, right? It's just part of life. It's part of our process. It just depends how we may need to seek help, or because of how deep we go into it, right? But and
mhm,
and and that may be in so many different ways. So we may need help, and we may need support through it. And I'm sure I did have, because I was still part of a community, and I was still part of a church in that moment, even though I kept traveling back and forth. But I did have that. So
mhm,
so even though what I'm trying to say is, like, there is no reason for us to have a stigma because we are depressed, or because we have experienced depression in the past, or because we're currently experiencing depression. So it's okay to
mhm,
seek help, and it's okay to be depressed. It's just part of life, right? Like, just a couple of weeks ago, one of my friends committed suicide. And so I had not seen him in years, and we were friends at work. So we didn't have a specific social relationship.
mhm,
But he was, as far as I knew, he was an amazing man. And so, what the challenge of I think of the COVID pandemic has brought up to us, so much isolation in some ways. If we are not finding a way to connect, to reach out, to speak out, if sometimes for men, some things, I think sometimes it's easier for a woman to break down and cry, it's more socially acceptable. But for a man to break down and cry is not as socially acceptable. And for a man is also expected to figure things out, to handle things, to be the hero, to
mhm,
protect, to so, like, for a man to reach out for help, for a man to go to the doctor from, I think is so much more challenging than for us, for women, that we're usually the caretakers, or though sometimes we're the caretakers and we take care of everybody and forget to take care of ourselves, right?
yeah,
So like, who Leslie here somewhere earlier, she said the whole process had been healing for her family, but I'm sure for her, before she
mhm,
took that decision to stand up for herself, it was challenging because she had to take into account that um, her family to begin with. Like, was she being
yeah,
selfish, or was she being self caring? And so she was taking care of herself. And in the process of taking care of herself, she was able to take care of her family. Her family benefited from her facing this challenge head on. And so I think that sometimes when we undertake our hero's journey, that's part of the challenges that we face, that we may be seen as selfish because we're having to go within to
mhm.
explore, to determine. We may have to put boundaries, right? And that, to me, is something that I'm still learning how to do. And sometimes it
Not
comes
the
out
B word. Not
sometimes
the B word.
sometimes the B word, but sometimes it comes out the wrong way, right? Because this is something,
Yeah.
and I feel like I've been working on this for the last 20 years, and I'm still finding, that fight of that thing of, like, trying to be the helper, trying to be the people pleaser, trying to, and it's challenging to face when people. I remember a friend of mine who was really clear with her boundaries because of work and because of sleep. So it was like, when we could talk, when we could hang out, it was like very limited. And I was the most flexible one. And then when I turn around and I said, you know what, then I need to, you're right. It makes sense for you to have those boundaries. I need to put those boundaries for myself too. I need to be able to rest. I need to be able to do the things that I'm choosing to do and take care of myself. And it kind of broke the relationship up because all of a sudden she couldn't deal with me. It was okay for her to have boundaries, but it wasn't okay for me to have mine. So it
Yeah.
sometimes we lose people in our lives. Sometimes we lose people in our lives because that we're not fulfilling that role that we were fulfilling before. And so for us to
Hmm.
remain friends, it means both of us have to evolve. Both of us have to grow. And sometimes that other person is not willing to grow. But that doesn't
Hmm.
mean that other people will then come and be there with you as the new stages progress.
Yeah, we're on a planet of billions of people. You're gonna find other friends. Yeah, boundaries. That's a tough one. I'll just say that I want everybody to hear this loud and clear. People do not like your boundaries. They will not like them, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't set them. Um, One, I'm looking at the diagram again, and another station of this journey, the hero's journey, is, and it comes right after rock bottom. It's revelations. So when you're in this unknown, you get to a place where you start having revelations. You start, let's call it, breaking old belief systems, and you realize that some of the things you were believing in your world of comfort may not have been true. Do you have any of those, Carmen?
No,
Did you have any?
no, not
Never
at
had a
all.
revelation?
Yeah,
No.
I think to me that's the beauty of it. When I get to the revelation part,
Mhm.
um, like what I said, like that, I could clearly see the choice of remaining a victim or taking responsibility. And what was surprising to me was that there was part of me that wanted to remain the victim, that wanted to keep blaming that other person,
Mhm.
and because it was the easier, quote unquote, even though I wouldn't have been happy with it and I would have been complaining for
Right.
it the rest of my life. It seemed like the easier, or perhaps because that's what I was used to, then it just feels like it's the easiest part.
Yeah.
But the hero's journey doesn't feel easy. And like Janice says, it still can feel isolated. It still can feel, excuse me, it still can feel like we're the only ones on our perch, right? Like we're the only ones on this stage by ourselves. And um, there may be things that we cannot talk to. Like we may have some friends around us. Um, like I, dear friend of mine, dear brother of mine, like we have like uh, like chosen family, right? Like we have chosen each other to be family. And,
Mhm.
but there are spiritual things that I cannot share with him because I will spook him or I will, whatever. Like I have to be more, talk about more tangible things, right? Like engineering things, things that are here and now. And so not everybody, even people that love you, may not all share what you're going through, may not all share your experience, may not be able to see what you see. And so to me, finding unity, I remember the first time I did anything at Unity on the Bay was with, I came to a class in Cameron's house, and it was the last of a series. But I remember I was welcomed, and I remember sitting in that room hearing everybody speak, saying like, "Oh my God, I've come home." Like these people talk my language. These are my brothers and sisters. So I think it's important to find those people that support us and that are in a, if not in the same, I don't think any of us are in the same path, but we do get to choose to walk by each next to each other side by side on our own path. And so I think
Mhm.
that's important to have that love and that support and that understanding, even when they don't understand, right? Like I love and understand you even if I don't understand exactly what you're going through. I
Mhm.
think that would be like nearly impossible to do, even if we have similar experiences. So just have that idea, and to know that sometimes we will feel that aloneness. And then I think it in that point, and I'm saying this more as I'm saying it to you, I'm saying it for myself also, because that's something that I have experienced. And it's just in those moments that we can choose to go within and to acknowledge that, to remember that in God we live, we move, and we exist. And so at all moments we're within God and never outside of God. So in truth,
Hmm.
we're never alone.
I love one of the things I love about you is you can tell that these teachings touch you because you get emotional about it, and I love that because you realize the beauty that's behind it. And you're right, we are never alone. If we truly believe that there is one power and there is one presence, it's God and it's good. No matter where you are on the hero's journey, there's a blessing to be had. In fact, you get to a place where you realize everything in life is a blessing, even the person who cuts you off on the road, even the person that speaks to you poorly. You realize that you are always taken care of by a loving, good God. And that's one thing that I love about unity, that we teach that, and we want people to go out into the world and experience it because it's true. It's true. So we have about 15 more minutes. But no, we have 3 more minutes.
Oh,
Yeah, the time always goes fast. So is there anybody out there that has last minute questions or comments about the hero's journey? Um, are you on it right now? Are you on a hero's journey? I know Erica was sharing some of what she's been going through, and being able to lean on her spiritual principles. Um, there also might be people watching that don't realize they're in the middle of a hero's journey. What would you say, Carmen, that are some of the characteristics of being on a hero's journey?
I think definitely being losing ground, like
Mm,
losing what you consider your ground, like the rug pulled from under your feet, just rolling in the air, floating, trying to find ground, trying to figure out what's up and what's down, because everything changes, right? The perspective changes. Reverend Juan put the quote of T.S. Eliot, which is why I took a picture of the screen earlier. We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. And so that that whole idea of seeing ourselves, thank you, that whole idea of seeing ourselves um, for the first time again in this place, just discovering the world. And so we can see that, I think, at every stage, as we start to see the helpers around us, the people that support us and that can help us, that maybe we had dismissed or we had not really seen. um,
mhm.
but also just seek for that blessing, right, in every place. And Pema Chodron, she says we tend, and part of that is just to learn how to float, or to learn how to reorient ourselves, or to be okay with not being oriented, right? Like, just we tend to go back and seek ground, and sometimes that what we try to do is go back to what we knew, right? But it's almost like when we already started on that journey, we really cannot go back to that point. Like, just by stepping through, we step through a portal, right? Like, that's why often, like in weddings and celebrations like that, there is a portal that you step, the couple starts under a portal, because you're going through, you're never going to be able to go back to things will never be the same anymore. You're stepping through together into a new place, into a new space. And so in the hero's journey, we're stepping through on our own, and so it gets ugly and it gets scary. And I joke with Reverend Chris, and I tell him, it was never in the small print, and if it was, I never read it, that this path to enlightenment, it's like going through hell. Like, you are going through all these challenges, and it's not pretty, because to be able to be able to put the boundaries, to be able to release them, the victim mentality, to be able to face our demons, our dragons, and slay them or become or befriend them, right? Like that's one of the things, is like every one of those characters is us, and within us there is a blessing to just to learn to love ourselves, to be able to be kind to ourselves. It's just like it's kind of like the opposite of what we were taught to do, right? Like it's kind of like to release all the judgments that we have of ourselves. And so
Mhm.
in being okay with right and wrong, good and bad, even if we think we're doing something so right or we think we're doing something so wrong, we're doing something so wrong and we're punishing ourselves for it, or we're doing something so right, this is the right thing to do, but it makes us feel like crap. So
Mhm.
it's not, it may not be the right thing for us to do. So just moving beyond the judgment of right and wrong, good and bad, and just following our heart. Joseph Campbell said in one of his interviews with Bill Moyer, thank you very much, Reverend Juan, for that too. Um, he says just find the little nuggets. He said there are three things that you could follow to arrive to enlightenment. It was consciousness, being, and your bliss. And so he said, I'm not sure where my consciousness is at. I'm not sure where my being is at, but I know what my bliss is. I can follow my bliss. So he would tell his students,
Mhm.
follow your bliss. And so he says, you need to learn your own depth. So we need to follow our bliss and let that be the guide. Listen to your heart mind, right? In the Chinese, the heart and the mind are together. So let your heart mind together guide you into your bliss. And so that is a path that will have mistakes. That's a path that will have challenges. But as we free ourselves, as we give permission to free ourselves, as we choose bliss for ourselves, then we give permission to all those around us to do it for themselves. We are being
Mhm.
a hero in our own path, but all of a sudden, people around us realize, holy crap, I can do it for myself. They are doing it for themselves. Oh, I did not know I could do that. Oh my God. Right? Like when my friend put
Yeah.
boundaries, I was like, oh my God, I didn't know I could put boundaries. And then all of a sudden our relationship fell apart. But it was just like, oh my God, I can put boundaries. And
Yeah.
so it's we all have to face those demons and in the end befriend them and realize this is us and find that that's who we are. I have a quote that I wanted to finish uh, with, and it's from Joseph Campbell, and it says, "I don't believe people are looking for the meaning of life as much as they are looking for the experience of being alive." And I think when we are
Mhm.
following our bliss, when we are doing more of what lights us up, more of what we love to do, then we are being alive, like in capital letters, right? ALIVE, like alive. And so that's what we have to give ourselves permission to do, because sometimes society will not give us permission, family, uh, the boss won't give us permission. So it's just kind of like a challenge. And I have a
Mhm.
little reminder. I brought it in my I
Mhm.
this is a little magnet on my refrigerator, and it says, do more of what makes you happy. So it's kind of what
Yeah.
um, Joseph Campbell invited us to do, of taking those little nuggets. So sometimes, so it's not like we're gonna all of a sudden like take a trip to Hawaii,
Mhm.
because Reverend Juan didn't invite us to go with him. Um, but if going and sitting under a palm tree, um, that's something feasible. That's something we can do, right? We can take a beach chair and go out, or a towel, and go and sit at the beach, or go and sit under a palm tree, or go and so that's something that us, and I'm saying that for those of us that are in South Florida, I'm sorry for those of you that may not have that, but maybe you can put it up in the video and put a video with music and the sound of the ocean and visualize yourself there until you can take that trip here to South Florida or Hawaii. Um, so um,
I want to
so
say, Carmen, just a quick point about what you said about being alive and feeling alive. That will never happen in your comfort zone. I want people to hear that. That sense of living will never happen in your comfort zone. Said another way, all of our, um, it's excitement. That's what I'll call it. Excitement. Life is about excitement, and that lives in the other side of your comfort zone, stepping into the unknown. And that's what we're here to do. And sometimes that can take place in a conversation that we're afraid to have. Like, how many times have you had a conversation with your boss, a difficult conversation, and you walk out of the room feeling elated because you're like, wow, I accomplished something. I actually spoke up for myself or whatever. So these don't have to be huge, like, I know you use the example of Hawaii, but it doesn't even have to be a huge trip. It could be something that you've been afraid of doing for a while. It could be jumping out of a plane for some people. It could be, if you're afraid of spiders, holding a tarantula. On the other side of that is this excitement. Also, before we wrap up, I just want to put on the screen something that Erica shared with us here, and it's information about a phone line that you can use if you're in distress, prevention, crisis resources. Thank you for that, Erica.
thank you
You
very
know,
much.
we were talking about reaching out for help. Um, so there's this. There's also, if you go on our website, on Unity's website, let me just hide this. We actually have congregational care. So look for that on our website. If you're going through something and want to speak with one of our counselors, if you want to get prayer support from our prayer chaplains, Carmen's the chair of the prayer chaplains. Those are available to you on Sunday mornings, or you can go on our website and call Silent Unity. You can put in a prayer request. So there's ways to be supported at Unity. Anything else, Carmen, before we wrap this up and get on with our Saturday?
I would say I have a question for them. Are you ready to live? To live? Live your life and feel alive. Start by doing more of what you love little by little. So just ask, I would say, wake up every morning with that question. And something really huge. Jason was talking about excitement. That was great. Jason, thank you very much. Our brain, like the physiological uh, registry in our brain for fear and excitement are the same. So sometimes when we're little, we're really excited and somebody tells us, "Oh my God, you're afraid," and we internalize it as fear. So ask
Mm,
yourself, because whenever we're approaching the unknown, all these feelings come up, and you see it in professional athletes. What? Oh my God, I'm gonna get pummeled by, the other football team. They switch that to like high power and energy and adrenaline, and like they're ready for it, they're ready for the fight. So you can reframe it, right? So the instead of fear, just ask yourself, is this excitement? I'm excited. Or just say it, like verbalize it, write it. I'm excited about this, even if you're not feeling it yet. Say it, write it down. I'm excited about this new path. This that I'm feeling is excitement. I'm excited about this choice, right? And
mhm.
within reason, right? Like we're not talking about jumping off the plane without the parachute. You are, if you're jumping off the plane, put the parachute on, right? So within reason, um, do face your fears, and then if you choose, or reframe the fears into excitement, and if you choose
Mhm.
not to take the chance, it's okay too. If you choose not to do it now, it's okay, because it doesn't matter, because life, this whole idea of like this is our last chance, does not exist. As long as we have a breath, life is, we live in an abundant universe, so there are multiple opportunities. So
Mhm. You know Carmen's serious when she takes off her glasses. And she talks into the camera, okay? She was preaching truth to you right there. All right, let's wrap this up. I'm so grateful for everybody who joined us. We're going to put together another tea time somewhere soon in the future. If you have ideas about what you want us to talk about, if you have ideas about guests that you want to have on tea time, shoot me an email. I'm going to put that in the chat right here. We're always looking for subject matters that are going to be practical for people and help you in your life. Carmen, you're an awesome hostess with the mostest. I appreciate all your wisdom. You had some real nuggets today, and I appreciate them. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you for inviting me to be your co-host. Pleasure to be here with all of you.
Have a wonderful Saturday.